Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Nuts. Young and Restless descends into madness. WTH is in the water in Geno City these days. It seems like every other character on The Young and the Restless is suffering from one mental health issue or another, which may be true to life. These are trying times, heaven knows, but condensed into a 1-hour soap opera, it feels like a lot. Hot on the heels of Ashley's hackneyed split personality storyline, we have on one end of the canvas Sharon, who stopped taking her bipolar medication and started hallucinating everyone from late daughter Cassie to late tormentor Cameron. On the other end of the canvas, we have Connor suffering from OCD and his parents suffering from sudden onset lack of poker face in the wake of their booze-fueled hookup. In between, we have recovering alcoholic Nikki and recovering addict Jack. We have Claire dealing with PTSD from her twisted upbringing by reverting to a semi-childlike state. We have Summer and Kyle competing to see which of them can descend into total narcissism faster and more completely. Although they still have a long way to go before they scale the heights of egomania that Billy has. We give Young and Restless credit for trying to educate the audience, only aside from PSA-worthy information about OCD, that isn't what's happening here. Mental illness is being used as a plot device, nothing more. It's the equivalent of a get-out-of-jail-free card, a now this character can do anything we want card. Can anyone who sat through cartoon villain Aunt Jordan's Reign of Terror really argue that this is a show that takes mental health seriously? Maybe the powers that be find crazy as easy to write as musical CEOs, but man, what we wouldn't give for another epic love story a la Nick and Sharon, and no, not just a retread of Nick and Sharon. A tumultuous romance like Neil and Drew's, a scandalous affair like Devin and Hillary's. Geno City had seen its share of chaos, but nothing could have prepared its residents for the whirlwind of madness that descended upon the town like a sudden storm. The sun shone bright that day, a deceptive calm before the mayhem that would unravel the lives of those who once believed they were in control of their destinies. It all began with a seemingly innocent nut. Yes, a nut. Not the kind you crack open and enjoy with a glass of wine, but a metaphorical nut. A tiny seed of chaos planted in the heart of Geno City, threatening to unhinge the most stable of minds. Victoria Newman, always the poised and calculating CEO, was the first to fall victim to the madness. Her morning began with the usual: coffee, a stack of documents, and a phone call to her father, Victor Newman. But as she reached for her coffee mug, she noticed something peculiar. A small bronze-colored nut sitting on her desk, right atop a contract she was about to sign. It wasn't hers, nor had she seen it before. Confused, she brushed it aside, thinking nothing of it. But that tiny object was just the beginning. By noon, Victoria found herself in a heated argument with her assistant, a squabble over something as trivial as the color of her office curtains. This was unlike her. Victoria never cared about such petty details, but the more she tried to focus, the more the image of that nut kept popping into her mind, gnawing at her thoughts like a relentless woodpecker. Before she knew it, she was ordering her entire office redecorated, a distraction from the growing unease that had begun to creep into her psyche. Meanwhile, across town, Phyllis Summers was battling her own descent into madness. Always a force of nature, Phyllis had been plotting her next big move, a scheme to take down Diane Jenkins once and for all. But when she returned to her suite at the Grand Phoenix, she found it ransacked, her belongings scattered, and a single nut placed delicately on her bed. A message? A threat? Phyllis couldn't tell, but her gut told her this was more than just a prank. The sight of that nut sent Phyllis spiraling. Her thoughts raced with paranoia, imagining Diane sneaking into her room, gloating as she laid the seed of chaos. Phyllis's usual bravado crumbled as she began seeing Diane in every shadow, every mirror. Her once sharp mind clouded with irrational fears. She even began doubting her own sanity. What if she had placed the nut herself and forgotten? Was she losing her mind? The madness wasn't limited to just the women of Geno City. Adam Newman, always teetering on the edge of sanity, was pushed further into the abyss when he found a nut inside the glove compartment of his car. It wasn't just any car. It was the one he used the night he had a run-in with Billy Abbott. Panic seized Adam as he questioned the significance of the nut. Was Billy onto him? Was this some twisted game? A warning of what was to come? The thought haunted him, and soon Adam found himself unable to concentrate on anything. Every time he tried to work, the image of that nut danced in his mind, taunting him. He became reckless, snapping at his colleagues and distancing himself from everyone, including Chelsea. The madness consumed him, driving him to the brink of a decision that could destroy him, and those he loved, forever. But the madness wasn't reserved for the Newmans and their ilk. Even the Abbott mansion wasn't immune. Jack Abbott, the ever-steady patriarch, began noticing strange things happening around the house. His bookshelves, meticulously organized, were suddenly in disarray. His desk, always neat, was a mess of papers and trinkets he didn't recognize. And there, sitting atop his family photo, was a single nut. Jack's initial reaction was one of confusion. Perhaps Kyle had been playing with Harrison, and the nut was just a toy. But as the disturbances became more frequent, Jack's mind began to unravel. He started seeing patterns in the chaos, convinced that someone was trying to send him a message. But who and why? As the days went on, the madness spread like wildfire through Genoa City. Nikki Newman found herself obsessing over the smallest details, convinced that her home was filled with hidden cameras. Billy Abbott, already prone to reckless behavior, became increasingly erratic, convinced that the universe was conspiring against him. Even the usually level-headed Sharon Rosales began questioning reality, as strange coincidences and unexplained events plagued her daily life. It was as if the entire town had fallen under a curse, each resident gripped by their own unique brand of insanity. Relationships crumbled as trust eroded, and friends turned into enemies, all because of those infernal nuts that kept appearing in the most unexpected places. But the true mastermind behind this descent into madness was none other than the reclusive and enigmatic Tucker McCall. Tucker, always the puppet master, had devised this scheme as part of a grand experiment. An experiment to see how far he could push the people of Genoa City before they broke. And break they did. Hidden away in his penthouse, Tucker watched with glee as the chaos unfolded. The nuts he had strategically placed were merely symbols, catalysts for the madness that had been simmering beneath the surface of Genoa City for years. All it took was a little push, a tiny nudge, to send the town spiraling into chaos. As the weeks passed, the madness reached a fever pitch. Genoa City was no longer the idyllic town it once was, but a battleground of broken minds and shattered relationships. The residents, once so sure of themselves, now questioned everything, their reality, their sanity, their very existence. And all because of a nut. A simple, insignificant nut that had driven them all to the brink of madness. In the end, it wasn't the power struggles, the betrayals, or the lies that tore Genoa City apart. It was something much smaller, much simpler. A reminder that even the strongest minds can crumble under the weight of the unknown. And as the dust settled on the madness, the residents of Genoa City were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, forever changed by the descent into chaos that had started with something as small as a nut.